Abd-ar-Rahman III was the Emir and Caliph of Córdoba of the Umayyad dynasty in al-Andalus, called al-Nasir. He ascended the throne in his early 20s and reigned for half a century as the most powerful prince of Iberia. Although people of all creeds enjoyed tolerance and freedom of religion under his rule, he repelled the Fatimids, partly by supporting the Maghrawa enemies in North Africa and partly by claiming the title Caliph for himself. Life. Early years. Abd-ar-Rahman was born in Córdoba, the grandson of Abdullah, 7th independent Umayyad Emir of al-Andalus. His parents were Abdullah's son Muhammad and Musna, a Christian concubine. His paternal grandmother was also a Christian, the royal Infanta Fortunes, daughter of the captive King Fortune Garce of Pamplona. Abd-ar-Rahman was thus nephew in the half-blood of Queen Toda of Navarre. He is described as having white skin, blue eyes and attractive face, good-looking, although somewhat sturdy and stout. His legs were short, to the point that the stirrups of his saddle were mounted just one palm under it. When mounted, he looked tall, but on his feet he was quite short. He dyed his beard black. Muhammad was assassinated by his brother al-Mutarif, who had allegedly grown jealous of the favor Muhammad had gained in the eyes of the father Abdullah. Al-Mutarif had accused Muhammad of plotting with the rebel Umar ibn Hafsan, and Muhammad had been imprisoned. According to some sources, the emir himself was behind Muhammad's fall, as well as al-Mutarif's death in 895. Abd-ar-Rahman spent his youth in his mother's harem. Al-Mutarif's sister, known as al-Saida, was entrusted with his education. She made sure that Abd-ar-Rahman's education was conducted with some rigor. Accession to throne. Emir Abdullah died at the age of 72. Despite the fact that 4 of his sons were alive at the time of his death, all of them were passed over for succession. Abdullah instead chose as his successor his grandson Abd-ar-Rahman III. This came as no surprise, since Abdullah had already demonstrated his affection for his grandson in many ways, namely by allowing him to live in his own tower, and allowing him to sit on the throne on some festive occasions. Most importantly, Abdullah gave Abd-ar-Rahman his ring, the symbol of power. When Abdullah fell ill prior to his death, Abd-ar-Rahman succeeded Abdullah the day after his death, the 16th of October 912. Historiographers of the time, such as Al-Bayan Maghrib and the chronicler anonymous Abd-ar-Rahman III, state that his succession was without incident. At the time, Abd-ar-Rahman was about 21 or 22 years old. He inherited an emirate on the verge of dissolution, his power extending not far beyond the vicinity of Córdoba. To the north, the Christian kingdom of Asturias was continuing its program of reconquista in the Duero Valley. To the south in Ifriqiya, the Fatimids had created an independent caliphate that threatened to attract the allegiance of the Muslim population, who had suffered under the harsh rule of Abdullah. On the internal front, the discontented Muladi families represented a constant danger for the Cordoban emir. The most powerful of the latter was Umar ibn Hafsan, who, from his impregnable fortress of Bobastro, controlled much of eastern al-Andalus. For the very early stages of his reign, Abd-ar-Rahman showed a firm resolve to quash the rebels of al-Andalus, consolidate centralized power, and re-establish internal order within the emirate. Within 10 days of taking the throne, he exhibited the head of a rebel leader in Córdoba. From this point on, he led annual expeditions against the northern and southern tribes to maintain control over them. To accomplish his aims, he introduced into the court the Sakalabar, slaves of East European origin. The Sakalabar represented a third ethnic group that could neutralize the endless strife between his subjects of Muslim Arab heritage and those of Muslim Berber heritage. As to Ibn Shaprat, a Jewish courtier of the king's court who served as financier to the king, wrote of the king's revenues on this wise: "The revenue of the king which amounts annually to 100,000 florins. This arising only from the income derived from the numerous merchants who come hither from various countries and isles. All the commerce and affairs must be subjected to my guidance. Praised be the Almighty, who bestows his mercy upon me. The kings of the world no sooner perceive of the greatness of my monarch, than they hasten to convey to him presents in abundance. It is myself who am appointed to receive such presents, and at the same time to return rewards awarded to them. Early rule. During the first 20 years of his rule, Abd-ar-Rahman avoided military action against the northern Christian kingdoms, Asturias and Navarre. The Muladi rebels were the first problem he confronted. Those powerful families were supported by Iberians who were openly or secretly Christians and had acted with the rebels. These elements, which formed the bulk of the population, were not averse to supporting a strong ruler who would protect them against the Arab aristocracy. Abd-ar-Rahman moved to subdue them by means of a mercenary army that included Christians. He first had to suppress the rebel Umar ibn Hafsin. On the 1st of January 913 an army, led by the eunuch Badr, conquered the fortress of Ashia at some 50 kilometers from the capital. All the city's fortifications were destroyed, aside from the citadel, which was left as residence of the governor and a garrison for the Emirate troops. In the following spring, after 65 days of meticulous preparations, Abd-ar-Rahman personally led an expedition to the south of his realm. His troops were able to recover the cores of Ja'ir-Qatan and Elvira, while a cavalry detachment was sent to free Malaga from Ibn Hafsun's siege. He also obtained the capitulation of Fianna, after setting fire to its suburbs. Subsequently he moved against the castle of Uviles in the Alpujarras. After devastating its countryside to deprive it of any resource, he encircled it. Finding it difficult to bombard with catapults, he ordered the construction of a platform where his siege weapons could be mounted to greater effect, and cut the water supply. The Muladi defenders surrendered after a few days. Their lives, apart from 55 diehards who were beheaded, were spared in exchange of their allegiance to the Emir. The campaign continued in a similar vein, lasting for a total of 90 days. Abd-ar-Rahman forced the defeated Muladi to send hostages and treasures to Córdoba, in order to secure the continued submission. In the first year of his reign, Abd-ar-Rahman took advantage of the rivalries between the Banu Hayy lords of Seville and Carmona to force them to submit. He initially sent a special corps under Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Hadir, governor of Ashia, to Seville, to obtain the submission. This attempt failed, but gained him the support of Muhammad ibn Ibrahim ibn Hayy, lord of Carmona, and a cousin of the Sevillan lord, Ahmad ibn Maslama. When the latter was surrounded by Umayyad troops, he sued for help to Ibn Hafsin, but the latter was defeated by the besiegers and returned to Bobastro. He next went after the forts in the provinces of Elvira, Granada, and Janj, all of which were either directly or indirectly controlled by Hafsin. Seville finally capitulated on the 20th of December 913. Ibn al-Mundir al-Qurayz, a member of the royal family, was named governor of the city, while the lord of Carmona obtained the title of vizier. Muhammad ibn Ibrahim enjoyed his office for only a single day, for Abd-ar-Rahman soon discovered his collusion with the rebel governor of Carmona. Muhammad was sent to prison, where he later met his death. The region of Valencia submitted peacefully in 915. Ibn Hafsin and other rebels. Abd-ar-Rahman's next objective was to quash the long-standing rebellion of Umar ibn Hafsin. His troops left Córdoba on the 7th of May 914 and, after a few days, encamped before the walls of Balda. His cavalry ravaged the nearby woods and the countryside, while the rest of the troops moved to Taris, a castle located in the present municipality of Algarnejo, which was surrounded within 5 days, while its environs were also devastated. The Umayyad army then moved to Bobastro, while the cavalry was sent to the castle of Sant Batir, which was abandoned by the defenders, allowing Abd-ar-Rahman's troops to secure a large booty. Then it was the turn of the castles of Olias and Reina. The latter fell after a violent fight, leaving the road open to the major city and provincial capital of Malaga, which he captured after 1 day. Abd-ar-Rahman then turned and followed the coast by Monte Mayor, near Benahavis, Suhal, and another castle called Taris Hussein. He finally arrived at Algeciras on the 1st of June 914. He ordered a patrol of the coast to destroy the boats that supplied Umar ibn Hafsun from North Africa. Many of them were captured and set afire in front of the Emir. The rebellious castles near Algeciras surrendered as soon as the Cordoban army manifested itself. Abd-ar-Rahman launched 3 different campaigns against Ibn Hafsun and his sons. Among them, Ja'far ibn Hafsun held the stronghold of Toledo. Abd-ar-Rahman ravaged the city's countryside. Ja'far, after 2 years of siege, escaped the city to ask for help in the northern Christian kingdoms. In the meantime, Abd-ar-Rahman obtained the surrender of the city from its population, after promising them immunity, although 4,000 rebel men escaped in a night sally. The city surrendered on the 2nd of August 932, after a siege of 2 years. In 921 the Banu Mahalib of Guadix submitted, followed by those of Jerez and Cádiz, as well as the trading republic of Pequina. In 927, Abd-ar-Rahman also launched a campaign against the rebel Banu Qasi clan, but was forced to break it off by the intervention of King Jimeno Garce of Pamplona. The last of Ibn Hafsun to fall was Hafs, who commanded his powerful fortress of Bobastro, surrounded by Abd-ar-Rahman's vizier Said ibn al-Mundir, who had ordered the construction of bastions around the city. He resisted the siege for 6 months, until he surrendered in 928 and had his life spared. The Levant and Algarve rebels. The continued expeditions against the Hafsunids did not distract Abd-ar-Rahman III from the situation of other regions in al-Andalus, which recognized him only nominally, if not being in open revolt. Most of the loyal governors of the cities were in a weak position, such as the governor of Evora, who could not prevent the attack of the king of Galicia, Ordono II, who captured the city in the summer of 913, taking back a sizable booty and 4,000 prisoners and massacring many Muslims. In much of the eastern and western province, Abd-ar-Rahman's authority was completely unrecognized. The lord of Badajoz, Abdallah ibn Muhammad, grandson of Abd-ar-Rahman ibn Marwan al-Iloki, not only fortified his city against a possible attack from Ordono, but also acted in complete independence from Córdoba, to avoid the fall of Evora into the hands of the Berber groups of the region. He ordered the destruction of its defensive towers and lowered the walls, though a year later he decided to reconstruct it, giving its control to his ally Masud ibn Sardan al-Sarandbaki. The Algarve was dominated completely by a Muladi coalition led by Said ibn Mal, who had expelled the Arabs from Behar, and the lords of Oxenoba, Jafar ibn Bakr, and of Nibla ibn Ufayr. The absence of royal authority enabled Ordono II to easily campaign in this area, his main objective being the city of Merida. In the summer of 915, Abd-ar-Rahman III did not send an army, and only several local Berber jefes offered some resistance, which was ineffective. assumption of the caliphate in the next year. Despite having defeated only some of the rebels, Abd-ar-Rahman III considered himself powerful enough to declare himself Caliph of Córdoba, effectively breaking his allegiance to and ties with the Fatimid and Abbasid caliphs. The caliphate was thought only to belong to the emperor who ruled over the sacred cities of Mecca and Medina, and his ancestors had until then been content with the title of Emir. But the force of this tradition had weakened over time, and the title increased Abd-ar-Rahman's prestige with his subjects, both in Iberia and Africa. He based his claim to the caliphate on his Umayyad ancestors who had held undisputed control of the caliphate until they were overthrown by the Abbasids. Abd-ar-Rahman's move made him both the political and the religious leader of all the Muslims in al-Andalus, as well as the protector of his Christian and Jewish subjects. The symbols of his new caliphate power were a scepter and the throne. In the mint he had founded in November 928, Abd-ar-Rahman started to coin golden dinars and silver dirhams, replacing the al-Andalus title with his name. In his new role of caliph, he achieved the surrender of Ibn Marwan of Badajoz in 930. On the southern front, to counter the increasing Fatimid power in North Africa, Abd-ar-Rahman ordered the construction of a fleet based in Almeria. The Caliph helped the Maghrawa Berbers conquer Melilla, Ceuta and Tangiers, which accepted his suzerainty. However, he was unable to defeat Jafar al-Sikili of the Fatimids. In 951 he signed a peace with the new king of Leon, Berthold III, in order to have a free hand against the Fatimids whose ships were harassing the caliphate once in the Mediterranean and had even launched an assault against Almeria. Abd-ar-Rahman's force, led by Prime Minister Ahmad ibn Said, besieged the Fatimid port of Tunis, which bought its safety through paying a huge sum. In the end he was able to create a protectorate covering the northern and central Maghreb, supporting the Iberia dynasty. The caliphate influence in the area disappeared after a Fatimid offensive in 958, after which Abd-ar-Rahman kept only the strongholds of Ceuta and Tangiers. War with the Christian kingdoms of the north. Even before al-Andalus was firmly under his rule, he had restarted the war against King Berthold II of Leon, who had taken advantage of the previous troublesome situation to capture some boundary areas and menace the Umayyad territory. In 917 the then Emir had sent a large army under his general Ahmad ibn Abi Abda against Leon, but this force was destroyed at the Battle of San Esteban de Gormaz in September of that year. Recognizing he had underestimated the power of Berthold II, in 920 Abd-ar-Rahman mustered another powerful army to reclaim the territories lost after the previous campaign. He captured the forts of Osma and San Esteban de Gormaz. After defeating King Sancho Garce I of Navarre and the King of Leon at Valdejuncura on the 26th of July, he penetrated into Navarre, overcoming Aragon by the classic route of the invasions from the south. Abd-ar-Rahman reached the Basque city of Pamplona, which was sacked and its cathedral church demolished. In 924 Abd-ar-Rahman felt obliged to avenge the massacre of Vigera Castle perpetrated by King Sancho Ordonez of Navarre 1 year earlier. He launched counter-offensive against Sancho in which Abd-ar-Rahman devastated a large area of Basque territory. The succession crisis which struck Leon after Berthold II's death in the same year caused hostilities to cease until Ramiro II obtained the throne in 932. A first attempt by him to assist the besieged rebels in Toledo was repelled in 932. Despite the Christian Christian king capturing Madrid and scoring a victory at Osma. In 934, after reasserting supremacy over Pamplona and Alava, Abd-ar-Rahman forced Ramiro to retreat to Burgos, and forced the Navarrese queen Toda, his aunt, to submit to him as a vassal and withdraw from direct rule as regent for her son Garcia Sanchez I. In 937 Abd-ar-Rahman conquered some 30 castles in Leon. Next he turned to Muhammad ibn Hashim at-Tughib, governor of Zaragoza, who had allied with Ramiro but was pardoned after the capture of his city. Despite early defeats, Ramiro and Garcia were able to crush the Caliphate army in 939 at the Battle of Simancas, and almost kill Abd-ar-Rahman, due, most likely, to treason by Arab elements in the Caliph's army. After this defeat, Abd-ar-Rahman stopped taking personal command of his military campaigns. His cause was helped, however, by Fernan González of Castile, one of the Christian leaders at Simancas, who subsequently launched a sustained rebellion against Ramiro. The victory of Simancas enabled the Christian kingdom to maintain the military initiative in the peninsula until the defeat of Ramiro's successor, Ordono III of Leon, in 956. However, they did not press this advantage as civil war broke out in the Christian territories. In 950 Abd-ar-Rahman received in Córdoba an embassy from Count Borrell II of Barcelona, by which the northern county recognized Caliphate supremacy in exchange for peace and mutual support. In 958, Sancho the exiled king of Leon, Garcia Sanchez, king of Navarre, and Queen Toda all paid homage to Abd-ar-Rahman in Córdoba. Until 961, the Caliphate played an active role in the dynastic strife characterizing the Christian kingdom during the period. Ordono II's half-brother and successor, Sancho the Fat, had been deposed by his cousin Ordono IV. Together with his grandmother Toda of Navarre, Sancho sought an alliance with Córdoba. In exchange for some castles, Abd-ar-Rahman helped them to take back Zamora in Oviedo and to overthrow Ordono IV. Later years, Abd-ar-Rahman was accused of having sunk in his later years into the self-indulgent habits of the harem. He is known to have openly kept a male as well as a female harem. This likely influenced the polemical story of his falling in love with a 13-year-old boy who refused the Caliph's advances. The love story may have been a construct on top of an original tale, however, in which he ordered the boy slave to convert to Islam. Either way, enraged, he had the boy tortured and dismembered, thus contributing to the Christian perception of Muslim brutality. Abd-ar-Rahman spent the rest of his years in his new palace outside Córdoba. He died in October 961 and was succeeded by his son al-Hakam II. Legacy. Abd-ar-Rahman was a patron of arts, especially architecture. A third of his revenue sufficed for the ordinary expenses of government, a third was hoarded, and a third was spent on buildings. After declaring the Caliphate, he had a massive palace complex, known as the Medina al-Zahara, built some 5 kilometers north of Córdoba. The Medina al-Zahara was modeled after the old Umayyad palace in Damascus and served as a symbolic tie between the new caliph and his ancestors. It was said that Córdoba contained 3,000 mosques and 100,000 shops and homes during his reign. Under his reign, Córdoba became the most important intellectual center of Western Europe. He expanded the city's library, which would be further enriched by his successors. I have now reigned above 50 years in victory, a peace, beloved by my subjects, dreaded by my enemies, and respected by my allies. Riches and honors, power and pleasure have waited on my call, nor does any earthly blessing appear to have been wanting to my felicity. In this situation, I have diligently numbered the days of pure and genuine happiness. happiness which have fallen to my lot, they amount to 14. O man, place not thy confidence in this present world. He also reinforced the Iberian fleet, which became the most powerful in Mediterranean Europe. Iberian raiders moved up to Galicia, Asturias, and North Africa. The colonizers of Fraxinetum came from al-Andalus as well. Due to his consolidation of power, Muslim Iberia became a power for a few centuries. It also brought prosperity, and with this he created mints where pure gold and silver coins were created. He renovated and added to the mosque cathedral of Córdoba. He was very wary of losing control and kept tight reins in his family. In 949, he executed one of his sons for conspiring against him. He was tolerant of non-Muslims, Jews and Christians who were treated fairly. European nations sent emissaries such as from Otto I of Germany, and the Byzantine Emperor. Ancestry. Abd-ar-Rahman II's mother Musna was a Christian captive, possibly from the Pyrenean region. His paternal grandmother Onica Fortunes was a Christian princess from the kingdom of Pamplona. In his immediate ancestry, Abd-ar-Rahman III was Hispano-Basque and Arab. Bibliography. Coop, Jessica. Martyrs of Córdoba, Community and Family Conflict in an Age of Mass Conversion. Lincoln, University of Nebraska Press. ISBN 0803214715. Fierro, Maribel. Abd-ar-Rahman III of Córdoba. Oxford, One World Publications. ISBN 1851683844. Ibn Idari. Al-Bayan al-Maghrib. Volume 1. Trans. Francisco Fernandez y González. Granada, Francisco Ventura y Sabatel. OCLC 557,028,856. Lane Poole, Stanley. The Mohammedan Dynasties. Chronological and Genealogical Tables with Historical Introductions. Westminster, Archibald Constable and Company. OCLC 1,199,708. Acute vi Provençal, Evariste, Garcia Gomez, Emilio, eds. Una Crónica Anónima Abd-ar-Rahman III al-Nasir. Madrid, Granada, Instituto Miguel Lasson. Scales, Peter. Fall of the Caliphate of Córdoba. New York, E. J. Brill. ISBN 9004098682. Wolfe, Kenneth. Christian Martyrs in Muslim Spain. Cambridge, Cambridge University Press. ISBN 0-521-34416-6.